It's Vegas or bust for Formula One, which has made a $500 million bet on a race in the self-styled sports and entertainment capital of the world. The hype surrounding the Las Vegas Grand Prix has reached fever pitch ahead of the 2023 race, and that's because this is an event that F1 desperately needs to work. The race will take over Las Vegas, with the cars charging down the iconic Las Vegas Boulevard, better known as the Strip. The expectation is that having a Grand Prix that races past the legendary Las Vegas hotels and casinos, which have starred in countless movies and TV shows, will supercharge F1's growth. But to do that, F1 has had to rip up its business model, put its hand in its pocket, and invest heavily. This race isn't being put on by an independent promoter that's paying tens of millions for the privilege, as per the usual model. Instead, F1 is promoting the race, and will do so for at least 10 years. The idea is simple. Las Vegas is a venue that will attract massive attention, not just in the United States, which is F1's priority growth market, but also globally. The race will bring in countless celebrities, high-rolling VIP guests, and there will even be some everyday fans, or at least those who can afford the sky-high ticket prices that are justified by organisers because of the premium experiences on offer. It will also give F1 extensive media coverage around the world and is predicted to have an economic benefit to Las Vegas of a whopping $1.3 billion. But this all comes at a significant cost, and it's a cost that has crept up, partly because of the prevailing economic conditions, partly because F1 is making a massive effort with this race, and partly because of the required additional security and traffic measures. What's more, given the 10-year deal, the first-year costs are inevitably way higher than the ongoing ones will be. At the last count, F1 said it had spent $280 million on the pit building and circuit construction. That building will house permanent F1 exhibits, meaning F1 will have a day-to-day foothold in Las Vegas outside of the Grand Prix weekend. The total cost of the event is tipped to hit $500 million. Indeed, Liberty Media recently issued figures that put the spending to the end of September at $435 million. Whether the final total hits $500 million or stays within it, F1 has laid a huge bet on Las Vegas succeeding. For this race to work, it needed to take over downtown Las Vegas. F1 learned that lesson when, 4 decades ago, races held in the Caesars Palace Hotel parking lot in 1981 and 1982 tanked. Nobody in Las Vegas really cared, it didn't bring much of an economic benefit, and drivers, teams and fans hated it. It's often forgotten in the mists of time that before the race started, some of the rhetoric surrounding it was similar to that about today's Las Vegas Grand Prix. That's a reminder that there are no sure things when you are gambling, but much is different about this new race. While putting it in the middle of Las Vegas on public roads ensures this race is everything the old Caesars Palace Grand Prix wasn't, it is causing disruption. Disgruntled residents have complained about that, while it remains to be seen how the practicalities of opening and shutting the track to traffic will work. The compromise is that F1 has to accept that it must run on track late in the day. The race itself starts at 10 PM on Saturday night, making it the first Grand Prix to happen on any day other than a Sunday since the 1985 South African Grand Prix. It could even become the first Grand Prix to finish on a different day to which it started. The whole weekend timetable is bizarre, with on-track running happening on Thursday, Friday and Saturday, and no support races. F1 has bent over backwards in order to put this race on in terms of the timings and logistics, and it has had to get the support of key hotels such as the Bellagio, Caesars Palace and the Wynn in order to get this project up and running. But it's not just the cash that's at stake, with the hope that this will prove to be an iconic sporting event that is also a social media sensation, but the potential for a paradigm shift in how F1 promotes itself. If Las Vegas pays off and F1 is showered by gold in the form of cash publicity and Instagrammable race experiences, it could have a seismic impact on F1's strategy. In Bernie Ecclestone's time, this would never happen. That regime was all about convincing promoters, ideally with big bucks backing from governments, to pay through the nose for races. And it's a good model, one that F1 largely follows today. The limitation is that you are in the hands of third parties in terms of where you can race. Liberty Media identified Las Vegas as a key location. Everyone in the F1 paddock is confident it will work, albeit almost too confident given the internal push to ensure criticism is minimised, and thanks to the interest level, it should work. If it does, the model of F1 promoting races will be validated. F1 is not considering taking all event promotion in-house, as that would be a reckless move. However, there is the possibility that it could add a few additional races in key territories as it attempts to grow F1, and of course make it even more profitable and boost the share price. India, which F1 has already tried to crack once before the promoter dropped out, has been mentioned, and the appeal of a race in a country with a population of over 1.4 billion is clear. Perhaps this could also be a means to achieve F1's ambition of having at least one race in Africa. That's what makes Las Vegas a high upside gamble. If it succeeds, the money rolls in and F1 has the proof of concept it needs. If it fails, then it will be a blow both financially and to its growth plan. Amid the hullabaloo about the experience of the race, the bright lights of Las Vegas, the casinos, the celebrities, and the social media opportunities, it's worth remembering that somewhere amid all of this, there will be a motor race. The Las Vegas track is 6.2 kilometres long with 17 turns. Aside from the unique backdrop, it seems a fairly standard issue street circuit, and one that will provide some driving challenge. Will it be good for racing? Well, the track has a bit of an air of an overgrown Miami, but with a crucial difference. The long straights mean the setup is going to be more like what teams use in Baku. That means lower downforce. Some, including Alfa Romeo driver Valtteri Bottas, have even likened it to Monza downforce with its long, high-speed straights and slow corners. The trouble is that for pre-event simulations, the track data available hasn't been at the usual high-fidelity level. Teams all have versions of the track for their tools, including but not limited to the driver-in-loop simulator, but it's not the all-singing, all-dancing scans they are used to. As Aston Martin Performance Director Tom McCulloch says, while they have some idea in advance, teams won't really know about the track surface until they go and measure it on the weekend. That's one unknown, but the hope is the track will produce plenty of excitement. Long straights, though, aren't the only thing that create overtaking. As Albon pointed out, the corners that precede the straights are significant. He mentioned there's one part of the track where the corner sequence before it means a potential passing place is nullified. That's because, much like in Mexico where the final complex compromises the overtaking chance on the run to turn 1, it's hard to follow. Albon didn't say exactly which corner, although that could apply to several parts of the Vegas track, notably Turn 1 and Turn 5. Turn 14, which follows the 1.9km straight on the strip, looks to be the best passing place. It's also going to be a tricky track to learn, especially with the limited opening hours making it difficult for drivers to fit in a pre-practice track walk unless they want to do it among the city traffic. But there will be another challenge at Las Vegas. Las Vegas is associated with heat given it's in the Mojave Desert, but deserts can also get very chilly, and thanks to the bizarre timetable for the Las Vegas Grand Prix, tyre temperature is going to be a big challenge. At race time last year, and remember this is a race that starts at 10 PM, the ambient temperature was about 11 degrees Celsius. That's winter testing in Europe territory and will make it very difficult to get the tyres up to temperature. As Haas Trackside Engineering Director Io Komatsu says, the low temperatures are going to have a big impact on how the teams operate in qualifying and set up the car. Pirelli has allocated the 3 softest compounds in its range and will specify a very high minimum tyre pressure, but it could be extremely difficult to get the tyres working. That could make life difficult for cars that struggle to fire the tyres, which might be interesting for Max Verstappen and Red Bull, given getting the fronts in for qualifying laps has sometimes been tricky this year. As the Pirelli tyres give terrible grip when not at the right temperature, with drivers likening it to driving on ice, there's every chance of some accidents. In particular, the medium tyre is likely to be tricky given the Pirelli C4 is, by its own admission, a very peaky tyre with a particularly narrow window. So will Las Vegas work? That's impossible to say, and arguably it won't be until future races that the true impact on F1 is understood, but F1 is confident it's a sure thing. The real measure, of course, will be cold, hard cash. There's every chance that for many F1 fans it'll be a troubling race, not just because of the sky-high ticket prices — the cheapest admission ticket on general sale was $500 for the 3 days — but also because it will be all about celebrities and glitz and glamour, possibly to the detriment of the racing. There have also been suggestions that plummeting hotel room rates and tickets being available so close to the event indicate take-up hasn't been as hoped, but event organisers insist that the room rates are not related to the F1 bookings and the plan was always to hold back some tickets for latecomers. But it's in everyone's interest for the race to be a success, because it will fuel F1's growth, and that's going to be good for everyone, even the traditionalists.